Tonight, Democrats filibuster Neil Gorsuch's Supreme Court nomination.
But we're obviously disappointed that the overwhelming majority of them are still playing politics with the nation's highest court.
Republicans are expected to respond with the nuclear option.
This judge will be on the Supreme Court sometime Friday night.
Jared Kushner's White House role expands, leading some to call him the true Secretary of State.
And a gas attack rocks Syria, killing at least 70 people in the worst chemical attack Syria has seen in years. The world responds.
We cannot close our minds of the responsibility to act.
All that and more ahead. This is Talking Points. The Student Association presidential election approaches, pitting Syracuse juniors James Franco and Angie Patty against Tyler Rossi and Roy Tinn. I'm Josh Carney.
And I'm Mike Riccardi. Tonight we are privileged to have the vice presidential candidates Angie Patty and Roy Tinn on the show for an extended conversation about issues we see being vital to the student community.
To kick off the discussion, take a listen to what presidential candidate James Franco had to say about the importance of a running mate in our CitrusTV debate last week.
To be honest, Alex and Mike, I'm actually a little disappointed that vice presidential candidates couldn't debate tonight. As we've learned from the past three, as long as I've been here, the success of administrations has depended heavily upon the work of the vice presidents.
Well, now we have our chance for you guys to get your ideas out there. Thank you both for joining us. Roy, I'm going to start with you, and Angie, I'll also give you a chance to respond to this question. You know, presidents say in my first 100 days, obviously you guys won't have that much time, but what do you plan on accomplishing right out of the gate?
Well, the very first thing that we would like to address is to put compliance in place. Now, we understand that there's a lot of violation within the current administration. They do have a bylaw review committee to do that, but in our opinion, it is more of a way for them to interpret the law in another way, rather than really fixing the problem, which is the compliance itself. This is why in the first day we will have compliance in place. Now the next thing would be to extend the diversity program, which will be personally overseen by me, and I will chair that committee. I will lead 8 international students with 6 more domestic students to address issues about inclusiveness on campus.
We'll also have to cut you off there. Sorry, Angie?
Yeah, so James and I are super excited because we are passionate about different issues, so we'd be working on kind of separate initiatives but also providing support. So specific initiatives that I'd like to work for is a peer listening service with regard to mental health and advocacy for victims of sexual assault. In addition to that, I'd also like to work on, similar to what Roy was saying, a multicultural committee that has student leaders from the international community, student leaders from organizations like Ubuntu, the Black Leadership Network, the Korean Student Association, creating this diversity community so that those voices are heard within Student Association permanently.
And Roy, a big point with you and Rossi's campaign is making it more participatory. Now, with voter turnout at 28% last year, how do you intend to bolster those numbers?
Now, first and foremost, we understand that the number is pretty low at 28%. With that going on, this is why one of our biggest initiatives within our campaign is essay outreach. We would love to partner up with Daily Orange, Citrus, to basically get our names out there. And in terms of that, the specifics would actually be office hours. Now, currently, we have to hold 20 to 15 hours, respectively, if elected. Now, what we're going to do is to have open office hours. Instead of sitting in the basement of Shine, we'll reach out, we'll go out onto the quad, onto Whitman, Newhouse, VPA, basically talk to people, make polls, do surveys, and understand what is it exactly that they want.
Now, Angie, part of your campaign, one of the big keywords is proactivity. How exactly can you and James take a proactive stance to ensuring student safety, specifically after we've had several incidents in the recent weeks?
Yeah, sure. So a specific initiative that James and I would like to work for is something that he speaks a lot about, and one is called the Orange Shuttle, and another is called the Euclid Shuttle and the Orange Trolley. I always get the names confused. And basically these would be kind of like these transportation services that would run on kind of a 15-minute loop that would help students get to their appropriate locations in a safe manner, so that we are combating the issues of the students being in danger, or students, that next DPS email, we don't want that to come out. And so by implementing initiatives like this, we'd really like to see that happen.
Now going off of campaign slogans. During your and Tyler's announcement video, you guys used the word mutual respect multiple times. Do you think that represents Tyler's comments towards Angie and her lack of having no real experience?
Absolutely not, and I would like to apologize to Angie for that. And on behalf of our team, Rossi and myself, I would again like to apologize for that. That comment was not only outrageous, but it completely undermined the capacity of Angie, and we have spoken publicly and in private about that issue. But I think one of the biggest problems would be the statement that I've as well issued and attached to Daily Orange tonight, yesterday night. In addition to the apology, I would just like to say that one of the other things that we are very proud of ourselves will be the transparency and accountability. Now, with all this going on, I know what I said just now might, pretty much jeopardize our entire campaign. In political campaign, no one does that. But I just want everyone to know that and see us not as candidates, but as peers, as a friend. We want people to know that what we're trying to do is to make a change, and sometimes things might come out in the way that it shouldn't come out. And an apology was made. We should move on, and we should think about that. And I think that should really show how we are as people rather than candidates.
Thank you. Angie, care to respond?
Yeah, no, I definitely do accept the apology, and I really do appreciate it. From the bottom of my heart, both to Tyler and to Roy. But I think the fact of the matter is that those comments were made, and it's really important to address comments that were made rather than, a big part of our campaign is being proactive and being reactive and apologizing after making those comments. It speaks to a lot of different issues. It speaks to the credibility of Student Association and this being a personal attack battle rather than it being something about the issues. It speaks to, kind of discrediting the accomplishments of women, especially women of color. And also it just speaks to, not valuing different kinds of experiences and just kind of considering experiences that are different than your own of lesser importance, which, as we know, Syracuse University is just built on different experiences between the colleges, between traveling, studying abroad, all of those kind of different things. So I do appreciate the apology, but the fact that these are
We're going to have to leave it there. When we come back, Angie and Roy are sticking around for more questions, and we'll look into essay voter turnout on campus. Don't go away.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it.
Since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
Welcome back. We are still here with Roy Tin and Angie Patty.
Now, Roy, the campaign has been critical of the idea of sanctuary campuses. Now, in terms of sanctuary campuses, Rossi has said that this could potentially cut federal dollars. Now, is that a misleading statement?
I think what he was trying to say was there is a conflict between this very bill and the Federal Compliance Immigration Act of 2016. And in there, federal funding is involved. So I just want to make sure that we are all on the same page. Now, I've also reached out to current SA members, and I understand from what they've told me that the bill is rather it works as a symbolic gesture, just so to understand that, we're all having the same respect, we're all in the same safe space. Now, I'm not going to go so far into comment on whether we endorse this bill or not at this very moment, but I just want to say that if we all keep an open mind, if we're all having the same mutual respect, the importance of this particular bill should not be that high, as we're all on the same page.
And Angie, a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, James and I want to be advocates for all students, and that means that we can't pick and choose the students who we wish to be advocates for. And the Sanctuary Campus bill addresses the fact that students on our campus feel marginalized and unsafe, and we don't really have time for that conversation of considering, the federal implications, which frankly are not, what Tyler was saying. They don't exist like that. It's a lot more complicated than that, but the fact of the matter is that we need to work for the students, and James and I support the bill wholeheartedly. He co-wrote it. We want to make sure that we're working for the students, and that Student Association is a student union for people who feel unsafe and uncomfortable, and making sure it's an inclusive environment, this undergraduate student body government.
Well, we appreciate both of your insights. Thank you so much for giving us the time and to ask some important questions. So thank you both for being here.
Yeah.
Well, as the race for SU's next Student Association president approaches, Talking Point's local correspondent Ray Marek tells us student voter turnout remains low both on and off campus.
For school-wide elections this past year in 2016, we had around 29% of the student body vote, and that's actually the second highest in school history.
That's less than a third of SU students who voted in the most recent school government election. Janine Bogeris is in charge of elections for Student Association. She says these numbers have come to be expected with the younger generation.
Around 25% tends to be the average. In midterm elections, in national elections, only around 20% of millennials even vote.
Off campus, it's the same phenomenon. Young Central New Yorkers once again didn't show up for the presidential election.
Well, like always, the youth turnout tended to reflect a lower turnout than any other age group.
So what's behind all this? One theory is that millennials are so accustomed to doing everything online, they just aren't likely to walk into an elections office. But in today's reality, they don't have to. New York State has made a heavy push towards online voting. Here in Onondaga County, you can actually log right onto the Board of Elections website, download a PDF, and fill out a voter registration form without stepping foot in an office. For government elections held here at SU, it's actually all done online right on MySlice. Despite all these low numbers, a recent spike in activism could help spark a change.
People are more interested in politics. People are realizing how much politics at every level are influencing their life.
Reporting from University Hill, Ray Marek, CitrusTV.
After the break, the Republicans are invoking the nuclear option to confirm Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. We'll look into the implications.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes, B, console her,
don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent. We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness. I am a witness. I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Welcome back. Well, after Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch failed to get the 60 necessary votes for confirmation, Republicans have moved on with the nuclear option. Now, only a simple majority will be needed to confirm Gorsuch. Talking Points correspondent Sabrina Maggiore is here to explain the significance of it all. Sabrina, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So the Democratic opposition to Neil Gorsuch, is this more because of the Merrick Garland treatment, or is it because they have legitimate reasons to oppose his nomination?
Yeah, so a lot of this is just resentment over the fact that Merrick Garland never got a vote. But there is, some ideological differences here that are coming into play. Democrats are clearly concerned over the differences ideologically. But when you look at what Gorsuch actually believes in, he's sort of following in the footsteps of Antonin Scalia, is a strict constitutionalist, so nothing super legitimate for them to do.
And is this the first time that the nuclear option has been invoked for Supreme Court nominees?
For Supreme Court nominees, yes. In 2013, Harry Reid actually invoked the nuclear option, but it didn't apply to Supreme Court nominees. This is the first time that it now extends to Supreme Court nominees, setting a major precedent. It's a big deal.
And moving forward, though, what are the ramifications going to be of invoking the nuclear option?
Yeah, so presidents moving forward are going to be under less pressure to appeal to choose a candidate that appeals to both parties. And the Republican Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina actually said, quote, that this means judges are going to be more ideological, not less. It means that every Senate seat is going to be a referendum on the Supreme Court and that the damage done to the Senate is going to be real. So serious consequences in terms of what the Senate is going to be facing.
And like you said, Harry Reid invoked the nuclear option back in 2013. That applied to lower court nominations. Now we have a shot of Mitch McConnell, his thoughts today, remembering that and what he thinks of invoking the nuclear option. Let's take a listen.
Our Democratic colleagues' decision to employ the nuclear option in 2013 was not in response to rampant obstruction, but was, in the words of the Washington Post, a power play.
So is this nomination, this new invocation of the nuclear option, is this just a power play for Republicans? I mean, how does this shape things moving forward?
So moving forward, we really don't know exactly what is going to happen, but at any point they could essentially go back to the 60 vote threshold. Right now we have the simple majority being invoked, so yeah, this could change in the future. We really don't know as of right now, but it is a power move for sure.
Definitely something to watch. Stay tuned for my take on it later tonight. Thanks for joining us, Sabrina.
Thanks for having me.
All eyes are on Jared Kushner after his visit to Iraq earlier this week. As a member of Trump's transition team, Kushner is expected to engage in government operations, trade deals, and Middle East policy. Talking Points national correspondent Galat Malamed is here to talk about Kushner's growing influence in the White House. Galat, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Now, what is somebody who typically holds Kushner's role? What is their role?
Yeah, so Jared Kushner is a senior advisor to the president, and usually this role is somebody who's, been a part of political life for a long time. They're basically the president's kind of go-to guy, of course, advising them on different policies, a big communication source. They do spearhead some projects of their own, but it is more of an advising role rather than a leadership role.
And people are calling him the secretary of everything.
Yes.
The role that he was appointed for is typically, like you said, is the role he's playing now any different from what he's normally expected to be doing?
Absolutely. He just came back he was in Iraq earlier this week, and he was there by himself. Usually, the advisor would accompany a president on a trip like this. He was there before the Secretary of State has gone there, before Rex Tillerson has gone there, before the National Security Advisor has been to Iraq, meeting with their prime minister. He's doing very big international diplomatic things, acting as more of a diplomat than an advisor and doing stuff independently.
Now, with a lack of political experience and him being a part of the Trump family, is he qualified for this position and what he is proceeding with?
Well, qualified, it's Donald Trump doesn't have political experience either, so it's not really surprising. He has a lot of people in his cabinet, and I think that's the point, is that Kushner doesn't have this political experience, and that's probably why he has this position, because this is what Donald Trump looks for. He kind of values business experience, I think, more than political insiderness, and that's basically what got him this role.
And Kushner only is 36 years old. But do you think this is possibly a case of nepotism?
Well, the Department of Justice said this isn't nepotism. They said it does not violate the anti-nepotism law. And something that's interesting is that the anti-nepotism law was created by Congress when JFK put Robert Kennedy as Attorney General. So this is kind of a similar instance, I guess you could say, and that's why the law was created. But they said this does not violate the law. So.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for being here.
After the break, the international community responds to the gas attacks in Syria. We'll be right back.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent. We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness. I am a witness. I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Early this week, Syria suffered its worst chemical attack in years. Dozens were killed, and the U.S. responded by condemning the Syrian government for the attack. Talking Points international correspondent Zina Saifi is here to explain the state of Syria and what the international community plans to do about the ongoing conflict. Zina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So the details of this attack are still sort of fragmented and not completely known. Going back to January, we have Susan Rice saying that we were pretty much successful, in an interview she did with NPR, pretty much successful in removing chemical weapons from Syria. Was this attack a failure on the U.S.'s part?
Basically, witnesses that were there said that there were fighter jets that threw bombs in the area of Khan Sheikhoun, which is mostly rebel-held. And then suddenly they said that thick white smoke exploded and erupted in the area. Now, obviously, the West and its allies condemned the Assad government for this, and the Assad government responded saying that it wasn't them, they would never fire chemical weapons at their civilians, and it was rather them attacking rebels who were trying to build chemical weapons, and then the explosion just happened.
Now, if they're trying to explain their way out of this, how has this event had an impact on the global community, and how have world leaders reacted?
So there were two sides to it on both fronts. First, the humanitarian front, there was an insane outcry because more than 100 people died. Most of them were children, which is insane. On the political side, it was more the normal narrative where you have two sides pitted against each other. So you have Iran, Russia, and Syria on one side, the United States and their allies on the other, basically blaming each other for action or lack thereof, basically.
And now that H.R. McMaster has been in place for a while as the National Security Advisor, and he's putting his team in place, we saw Steve Bannon get removed from the Principals Committee on the National Security Council, which is basically like the Situation Room. What does this tell us about the U.S. response moving forward?
I think basically Trump in particular and the U.S. in general has had a very weary, stance on Syria. Especially, I think the biggest reason is because of the cabinet and the members of his team have been so uncoordinated. Michael Flynn left earlier, this year, and then now you have Steve Bannon, and they had very strong opinions on what to do with Syria, terrorism, the Middle East. Back in 2013, when chemical weapons were used in Syria, President Trump said that Obama should not interfere at all. Whereas earlier, after this attack happened, the spokesperson Sean Spicer said that that he was condemning Obama for not interfering in the first place. And then Trump went back again and said that Obama should have interfered. So it's very, back and forth. And then the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, went out and said that the U.S. needs to do something. When she got questioned about what their plan is, she didn't really have a response.
It's certainly an issue that the global community is going to be watching the coming weeks. Thank you, Zina.
Yes.
Here at Talking Points, we value in-depth coverage of the world's most pressing issues.
But some stories inevitably don't capture mainstream attention.
So this week, we have 3 important stories you may have missed.
Singaporean teen internet personality Amos Yee is still detained in the U.S. despite having been granted asylum nearly 2 weeks ago. But now, immigrations and customs enforcement officials are deciding if they want to appeal the grant of asylum.
Yee gained international attention after he was arrested in Singapore for posting YouTube content against the country's late prime minister. When he turned 18 in December, he flew to the U.S. to seek asylum and has been in detention ever since.
Right now, President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are in the midst of a 2-day summit at Mar-a-Lago, where a main topic of discussion is North Korea. The country once again is at the center of attention after a failed missile launch earlier this week.
The launch adds to the pressure the U.S. has been putting on China to curb North Korea's nuclear program and missile testing. President Trump has said that the U.S. is prepared to act unilaterally to deal with the situation.
The House of Representatives is kicking off a 2-week vacation today, but not before making some changes to the health care bill they failed to vote on last week. This morning, House Speaker Paul Ryan revealed a proposed amendment to the bill that would include more protections for people with severe and expensive pre-existing conditions.
According to an anonymous White House source, the vice president was pressuring the GOP House leadership to move quickly on repealing Obamacare. The White House is concerned that the longer they wait to get a bill passed, the less support they will have. When we come back, we'll discuss the stories we're looking at in the week ahead. Stay with us.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
One story I'll be looking ahead to this week is the removal of Chief Strategist Steve Bannon from the National Security Council. Many are now asking, why did this happen? The shift is thought to be orchestrated by Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, Trump's national security advisor. But this change comes at a time where the public is led to believe that President Trump is critical of the work Bannon has actually been able to accomplish. Bannon was one of the major influencers behind the closed-door meetings regarding the Republican health care bill that was pulled in March. It's implied, without much of any diplomatic conflicts being at the forefront of the agenda, that there is a distrust and lack of faith that Bannon will be able to deliver. Will Bannon be able to sustain his influence in the administration on international issues? What will Bannon refocus his energy on? What will this shakeup mean for immediate issues of public diplomacy? These are all questions the public will be asking and answers that I'll be listening for.
That's all we have for tonight.
In the meantime, check out CitrusTV.com for all things Talking Points. You'll find episodes, segments, and blog posts on our personal page.
Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next week. For Talking Points, I'm Mike Riccardi.
And I'm Josh Carney.